Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before I get to our guest, well, you should recognize our guest. Keleen's back on the podcast. She was our guest a year and a half ago, and I was just telling her this just before we started recording. It's just amazing how time flies. But she's on here to talk about, what she's been up to and also about, how she's staying in shape during this quarantine. And I'm just so happy to have you back on again, Keleen.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be with you.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Well, I got to ask first of all, because, it's we're expected to maybe get snow tonight in Minnesota, so I just don't know how I'm able to cope with that. Mentally, it's just, oh my god. Now it's gonna hopefully just only last, a couple of minutes on the ground. But what's the weather like in your neck of the woods?
Well, it kind of changes from day to day here in Georgia. It's a little wacko. Like one day we'll have 70, 80-degree weather, and then like today it's pouring rain and it's colder. So every 2 or 3 days we get something different. So
Oh well, believe me, I know all about bipolar weather. It was 69 degrees here, I think, like 2 days ago, and yeah, now we're expected to get snow. So yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. But before I depress everyone with my winter woes, because I mean it's still winter here. Every once in a while you'll get some snow, but so I mean I could do a whole podcast on that. Why don't you talk about what you've been up to the last year and a half? Because I mean it's been a while, and I mean if everyone goes and looks on your Instagram, we can tell that you've definitely made some changes and improved a lot.
thank you. Yeah, I think that was the goal after competing about a year and a half ago, was just to go back to the gym and just make some improvements on my physique. And I decided that I was going to take a good year to do that, take some time. I'm a little bit on the older side of things, so it takes my body a little bit longer to maybe develop the way that I'd like it to. So, but I don't mind taking the time. I actually, like, for me, the training is the best part. Like the day to day training, all that grind is what I love. So I love competing. But if I had to choose one, it would be the training, the day to day training. I just love it.
Well, yeah,
So
I was gonna say because you're only on stage for like what, like a minute or 2 minutes at times, and it's like the training takes up 99.999% of your time.
absolutely, absolutely, it is. It's so fast, and you do so much leading up to that. It is kind of amazing how quickly you're on and off stage. Yeah.
Well, what is one body part that you think that you've improved on the most since we last talked a year and a half ago?
So I wanted to put some size on my lats. So I had more than one thing, but I also wanted to improve some areas of my glutes, and I wanted to add a few more abs. So that's kind of where my brain has been. And I'm in the middle of my cut. And so I'm not like seeing all of the progress yet, but I definitely have seen some size on my lats. I've seen some improvements in my glutes. So I'm hoping to see some more abs in a few weeks. So, it's they slowly show themselves to you, when you start to cut. And when you're bulky, you're like, okay, I feel like I've got the size. But then the trick is to lean down and try to keep as much of that size as possible, and then just, chip away at that fluff and that fat, and hopefully you're left with something really amazing and exciting underneath that. So,
I mean, it's like an art piece, it takes time, and the end results definitely outweigh all the struggles that go into it. But have you mixed up your training at all? Has your training been different the last year and a half to sort of get different results? Have you mixed it up?
yeah, my trainer has always been asking me to put some more carbs into my diet. That's a scary thing for me, and I don't know if that's kind of a female thing, or if males worry about that too. But for me, I was kind of always ha- trained with this mentality that carbs are, they're the devil. They're gonna make you fat. And my trainer's been trying to convince me, no, they're gonna give you energy, they're gonna help you grow. Obviously, when you eat a certain amount of carbs, you're not going to be able to stay lean. You're not going to be able to have that shredded look. That's not reality. But if you're in the game of building, you need to trust that those carbs, within reason, because you have to watch and see how your body is being affected by those carbs, and make sure you're getting just the right amount that is helping you and not putting on too much extra weight, because you really don't want to put on too much extra weight. Those carbs are effectively helping you build muscle. So that's what I tried to do this year, was really trust my trainer and eat more carbs. But I did feel pretty fluffy the last year and a half. It's hard. It's hard when you like that muscle definition leaves and you feel, as a female, you just feel really like bulky and big. And to me, putting on a dress feels like a joke. You're like, what? I even trying to put this dress on. There would be so many times where I go to put like on a shirt or a dress, and literally I'm like, okay, these sleeves don't fit anymore. I can't. There's no way I can wear this. Trying to go to church, with like a dress on, you're like, this. I don't know. I feel kind of weird. I feel good in the gym, but some other places I don't quite feel right. But I have to keep in mind what the end goal is. And that was to put on some size and make some improvements. And I think your nutrition plays a really big part in that.
Well, speaking of nutrition, you brought me right into it. What have you changed things up nutrition wise? Have you found new ways to, like, I know you said that you upped your carbs, which, and I'm just going to answer your question, by the way. If you tell me I can have more carbs, I am bouncing off the walls excited. So it might be just a male female thing, but yeah, I mean, carbs for me, I mean, yeah, just get me some more of that grains, get me some more of, oh my God. I just even thinking about it right now is getting me hungry. But what other nutritional changes have you made in the last year and a half?
Um, let's see. I probably, along with carbs, just making sure that what I'm doing before my training and what I'm doing after my training, those carbs are the right type of carbs for me, and that they're the right amount. And I find that some athletes that I talk to forget how important that is. If you're going to eat a lot of carbs and you're worried about it, try putting a bulk of those carbs before your workout and after you work out, because your body is going to use them. It's going to eat them up and probably most likely send it to the right place in your body, as opposed to, later at night. Not that there's anything wrong with eating carbs, later at night. And I think as athletes, what we really need to do is consider our own bodies, our own physiques, and pay attention to how we respond. Um, a lot of times, especially on Instagram or social media, I'll see coaches or athletes that are kind of giving a one for all nutrition method. And I think that there's definitely some general things that are good, and everybody can benefit from them. But I think that if you're going to get down to the nitty gritty, you really need to consider how you react to a type of nutrition. So it's not enough to just tell somebody eat this amount of protein and these many carbs. I think that's a good place to start. But then I think you need to watch your physique, for a couple of weeks and say, how am I responding to this? Is this getting me what I need? And then make those adjustments accordingly. Because I know as an older athlete, and as a female, that I can't eat as many carbs as I used to when I was maybe 20 and 30. My body just doesn't respond the same way. It doesn't metabolize that food the same way. So I really have to pay attention to my individual needs and make those adjustments.
I cannot tell you how glad I am that you said that, because I see, especially on Instagram too, yes, so many people that just say this is a one for all thing, and they don't realize it's like, if you're going to have maybe like a woman who's like 5 feet tall and I'm 6'3", we're going to probably have different nutritional needs and stuff. So I mean, yeah, everybody, and like you said, yeah, there are definitely general things that everyone can sort of get some results from and get really help with. But yeah, it's all about your body. I mean, I always said if you put 100 people in a room and just had them eat the same nutrition, you'd get 100 different results. And it's just, I mean, so many people, it's all individualized, and a lot of that, it's a process, and a lot of people don't understand that. But how do you deal with mentally, like you said, when you felt like fluffy and felt a little bigger, how do you deal with that mentally? Because for all the physical aspects of this sport, the mental aspect is 99% of it when it comes to the struggle, I think.
You're so right. And it's interesting because my mental game is absolutely present during bulking, and then that mental shift happens when I start to cut, and I have a different voice in my head when I'm cutting. And I've noticed that what happens to me mentally affects me just as much during bulking. I'm just going to be like totally honest with you. There were like some days where I go into my closet, like I come home from the gym, I feel so good. I've got the pump. I'm in my gym clothes, and then it's ready to go to work, right? So I got to shower. I got to get my normal clothes on and go to work. And there are some days where I put on my clothes, like I can't get my pants past my quads. I can't get my arms in my shirt. And I just feel, I don't feel good, And you can't, at least me, I can't stand in the mirror and see a lot of muscle definition anymore. So I'm not being rewarded that way. And so I would have a tendency to just kind of get down. And I think there was like two people in my life that would notice this. First, my husband, who was so good at saying, "Hey, babe, remember the goal. Like, remember what you're doing this for. Remember the end goal." And he was really good about reminding me that. And that would help. And I think, too, just having a trainer, having somebody that stands in your corner and reminds you of the specific reasons why you're doing what you're doing, it's really, really helpful. He would just say, "Hey, remember, you're here to build muscle. So stop worrying about whether or not you can see muscle definition right now, or you feel fluffy. Like that's really what you should be doing right now. So how you look is exactly how you should look while we're bulking." And it wasn't like he wanted me to put on a ton of weight, because I don't believe in that either. But to just remember that the nutrition is going to affect your body differently. So the nutrition at that time was to help me build, and I was effectively doing that. And so instead of concentrating on whether or not I looked great in a bikini, I needed to say to myself, am I building muscle? Am I making improvements? Because the end goal was a year later to get back on the stage and beat the girl that I saw on the stage a year and a half ago. That's the goal. And so I have to have a conversation with myself, more than 2 or 3 times during the week, and remind myself of those specific goals. When I start to cut, the mental game gets different for me. And it's really interesting that you brought that up, because I actually had kind of a powerful moment in regards to this subject just a couple of days ago. It's about at this time in the cutting process that I start to worry about whether or not I'm enough. And it becomes a very personal thing, Ryan. It's like, why am I doing this? Do I deserve to be on the stage again? Am I going to embarrass myself? Am I ready? Have I made the enough improvements? Like, I'm 50 something. Why am I doing this? Like, I just start to have all these crazy voices in my head. And I was kind of voicing that during my training with my trainer. And he said something to me that just kind of went, like, it just changed my whole outlook. He said, "Hey," he calls me Super K. He said, "Hey, Super K, stop letting the devil ruin your journey." And just for a second, I felt like time stopped. I know that sounds kind of dramatic, Ryan, but for me, it was just like time stopped. And I thought about that message for a second. I thought about how what we're thinking has the ability to ruin this journey that is so important for us. Why would we do that? Like, listen, I may not take a first place award. Maybe I won't even get the first call out. But for me to be able to just go through this journey because it's important to me and it means something to me, and to say that I did it, I went from point A to point Z, and I did everything in my power to be the best that I could be, that's enough. That's enough. And whether or not I get a first or a second or third or whatever, that's out of my control. I have no control over that. What I have control over is what I put in my mouth, how hard I train every day, how well I recover, how I sleep, how I rehearse my posing and find my music and my all of that I can control. So I thought that was really, really good advice.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing, and yeah, that is great advice too because bodybuilding, there is a lot of doubt that happens out of the hundreds of competitors that I've talked to. That's a big thing, and I can say, Keleen, you are definitely enough. I mean, I just saw she had a photo of her this morning when she was doing a Flex Friday, and yeah, she's definitely worth it. Everyone, okay, so we can just get that out of the way. But yeah, it's just so fascinating the tricks that the mind can play on you and how it's just a mental struggle in this sport. Because if you were to talk to the general public, they would not even have a clue that it's so much more a mental game than it is a physical game. But you brought up sleep, and I mean that's really important, especially during this time of we're in the middle of a pandemic. But how has your sleep been? Have you found that you're able to get the proper amount of sleep?
Yeah, so I actually had a period of time after, like between this year and a half, that I was not sleeping well. And I would like go for like 2 or 3 days where I would kind of fall asleep. And then at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I would suddenly wake up and I could not go back to sleep for a couple of hours. And so I knew something in my adrenals must have been off. Like um, I don't like I'm not an expert, but this is what I kind of understand is that sometimes people that train really, really hard can get their cortisone levels to go up. And that will cause your adrenals to be too high. And then you just can't relax. You can't fall asleep. And I don't even know if I said that right, but that's just kind of my understanding about that. Um, and so I started to just take a supplement to help me with my adrenals. And I don't know, should I say what I take?
Sure. Yeah.
I take this product called Calm. Have you heard of that, Ryan?
I have not heard of it, but I will definitely look
So
into it.
it's like you can get it off of Amazon or you can get it at Whole Foods, but it's like a powder. It's a magnesium supplement. And if I take that, I am like out. And I am amazed at the power of sleep. Like I am amazed that when I get a really, really good night's sleep, when I wake up, I am so ready to go to the gym. I feel like literally I feel like my whole body's just recovered. Like my legs are ready, my shoulders are ready, my back are ready is ready. But when I don't get that sleep, going into the gym is hard. It is hard. So that sleep stuff is like it's no joke. If you're not sleeping, you need to figure out what to do. Like put your phones away, put your iPad away, like figure out if your adrenals are too high. Maybe look into that Calm magnesium support because it has done like wonders for me. Now I'm sleeping like a baby every night, and I love it.
For me, melatonin has done the huge trick. I mean, I take one of those and yeah, give me about 15 minutes and I'm dead. But I also had that simmer problem back when I like really, really went really hardcore. Like in college, I would have, days where I'd go work out for like an hour and a half and then I'd do an hour and a half bike ride later that day. I wouldn't be able to sleep that night just because I would just be so amped up from it. And even though like anyone else would be like super tired and fall asleep, I'd be like really tired and want to fall asleep, but I'd just be so amped that I'd only get like an hour or two of sleep. So yeah, I definitely understand where that's coming from. But a training technique that I was familiar with before I started the podcast, but I haven't really done it as much as I have, the last couple of months because all these guests recommended is time under tension. Do you like to use a lot of time under tension in your training?
Yeah, my trainer has me do that every once in a while. He'll like have me go really slow and then hold it, which is really hard. Hold that weight for a minute and then like in a lat pull down, you're just holding it and then you're going back up really, really slow and then coming back down and holding it. So yeah, we do that kind of stuff. I wouldn't say I did a ton of that, but I definitely work that in
Yeah. Do you
every
tend to
now.
go heavy lifting or what? If we were to go for like a week, if we were to follow you for like a week, what would your training look like?
My training is pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy. Yeah, I mean, it's heavy for me. And I have a tendency to do a lot of that. But I work in other things. For example, like on leg day, I'm doing heavy squats and heavy leg presses and all of that. But I'm also doing some band work, for my glutes. So there's a little variety in all of my workouts.
Well, now here's the part when you embarrass us. What are some of your best lifts that you've done in the gym recently?
Well, I mean, my best lifts, I mean, I'll just say that I just really, really like back day. I feel like I'm pretty strong in my back. Um, I I like parts of leg day, but I feel like anybody who says they love leg day is kind of cuckoo.
Mm-hmm.
I always say you're either cuckoo or you're not lifting heavy enough because leg day is a killer for me. But I always feel really, really good afterwards. You feel kind of like Wonder Woman when you're done because you can't believe what you've been able to accomplish.
Either that or you just can't even walk. So then you're just like, okay, someone just carry me to my car or just drag me home basically, and then I'll find my way up to my bed and then collapse basically. But yeah,
I don't think that's one thing. It's like some days, like when the weight has been really, really heavy, like I end up taking a little afternoon nap because I don't know, my body just needs to like have that like extra sleep during the afternoon. So if I can work it in, I think a nap is a good thing, Ryan.
oh, 100. I'm one of those people where once I get up, it's almost impossible for me to fall back asleep. So I have probably taken like a handful of naps my entire life, or at least in the years that I can remember. I mean, I had one this year, and it was like one of the best things ever. But yeah, when I'm up, I mean, I'll close my eyes for like half an hour, but I won't be able to fall asleep or take a nap. But it's,
Oh,
yeah, hey,
maybe
it's
when you get to be as old as I am, Ryan, you'll be able to take naps.
that'll be one thing I can look forward to then, I guess. Yeah, is being able to take naps. It's definitely something that I hear about all the time from all my friends, and it's like, yeah, well, consider yourself lucky then and blessed that you're able to do that. But
Well, I think when you're training really hard for something, if your body is telling you something, it's important to listen to your body. And I think if your body is screaming at you for rest, do it. I think we don't give our bodies enough credit. I think they speak to us a lot, and I think that we're really, really busy and we're not really paying attention. Um, but I think that's what I've tried to really do this year is listen to what my body is telling me. I had a couple of like not I don't know if you'd call them injuries, but little tweaks this year. Because I do lift pretty heavy, and it kind of causes you to slow down and pay attention and listen and take the time to figure out what's causing it. Um, I think generally speaking, some of us are in too much of a hurry. Like we're in a hurry to see progress. We get impatient when we don't see it quick enough. We're so busy doing whatever else we're doing that we don't take the time to listen and really pay attention to what's going on. Um, and I think that's one thing that I've done a lot better of a job this year at is just really listening, taking really good care of myself. If I feel like something's not right, in my early 40s, I would just say whatever, and I would just go to the gym and lift really heavy and get into trouble. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into the gym, but I'm going to like really listen. And if something's hurting and not feeling right, I'm going to moderate that exercise or do something else. And I think that's really, really important, especially as we age. Because Ryan, I want to be like lifting for a long, long time. I may not be competing forever, but I want to lift. I want to be a bodybuilder for a long time. And so I want to really pay attention to my body and make sure that I'm doing all the right things for it.
she wants to be that grandma that's moving furniture when
Yes,
she's like 75 years old
yes,
and moving out of the house by herself, basically. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes. Thank you. I want that.
Yeah. No, yeah, and that's just a great way to put it. I mean, because yeah, it affects your life in so many more ways than just the physical aspect and all
Yeah.
the stuff that you're able to accomplish. But I mean, you mentioned it too. I mean, posing is always an ever evolving thing. Have you changed up your posing routine at all, and what changes have you made to it?
So I just started doing that. Like literally, I just started working on my posing routine
Oh
yesterday.
wow.
So I, yeah, I have some goals. I, I'm fascinated by people who can pose in such a way that they can really like bring the audience into what they're doing. and it seems like they're just having so much fun, and they haven't separated themselves from the audience, but they're like letting the audience in. I i enjoy the posing and the routine. Like, I grew up being an entertainer, singer, dancer, all of that in musical theater. So the stage is, I feel good on the stage. When I'm back in the wings getting ready to come out onto the stage, I'm excited. I'm rarely scared. I'm really, really excited. But I just want to like let myself go a little bit more and be just a little more confident and just show my personality, I think, a little bit more. So that's one of the goals I have for that.
You can
So
definitely tell. I've seen some videos where, yeah, some people, they just have that natural ability where it's just like, how are they doing that? And it just, yeah, it's a lot of practice. But
yeah.
before this pandemic hit, did you have any plans of competing this year? Were you just gonna wait until next year? What were your plans?
No, I had plans to compete this year. Um, so when the virus hit and we were all put in stay in shelter, um, I had a few days where I'm like, oh no, what is this going to mean? Like, are they going to cancel stuff? And there was no word yet, like here in Georgia, if they were going to cancel stuff. So in my brain, I just said, I'm not stopping. I'm not quitting. Like, listen, the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm just going to look really good and nowhere to go. I'm just, I'm just going to go, and I'm going to stay in the mindset. I'm going to just stick to the training, stick to the prep. And that's what I did. And as far as I know, the competitions that I have happening and want to be involved in, they're still a go. So they're not until like July, and then another one until November. So I think we're good, hopefully.
Yeah,
So
I hope so too. And it looks like things are getting a little bit better around the country. So hopefully, yeah, by July we might have a little bit better, or at least more time to go out and do stuff. Because yeah, this is getting difficult for a lot of people that I know too. Just this
yeah,
whole stay at home. But how have you been able to keep your routine down? Because a lot of the gyms are closed, and so many people don't have that equipment at home. And luckily, I have a little bit of stuff at my parents' house that me and my two brothers came back to spend the quarantine with our parents. So we have some stuff to do. But how have you been able to keep this momentum?
yeah. So I'm pretty fortunate that I have a pretty nice little gym in my house. I can actually do almost everything upper body in my house. I have some cardio equipment in my house too. So I'm very blessed that I was able to have that, and I can use that. Um, I I was able to go into a gym, and be there by myself because I know somebody. So even though they were all closed, I had the advantage of having that too. So on leg day, I was able to go into that gym and almost be literally by myself in that gym and work out. So I was very, very fortunate. I know that most people did not have that, and I've been without that before. I think maybe we talked about this last time we chatted, but I had a year and a half where I had two shoulder surgeries and could not train for a year and a half. So I know how that feels, and I know how that can wear on you physically and mentally and emotionally, and I know how rough that is. So, and people that don't work out and don't go to gyms don't get that. But the community of people that work out and lift, we all have that in common. That is really a big deal for us, and that's our therapy. No, the gym's our therapy. I was very lucky to be able to have a place to go.
Yeah. It's huge. I mean, yeah, the therapy aspect. I mean, it really is just one of those healthy addictions that you can have, and it's great for you. But when it comes down to this whole pandemic too, I mean, people don't talk about people's mental health because a lot of people, especially that I know, are struggling. With the quarantine. How have you dealt with this mentally? Has it been easy for you, or has it been just something that you've gotten a little bit more adjusted to as time has gone on?
Yeah, I think like most people, I had a few days where I got a little nervous. I even wrote about it on Instagram one day when I went into the grocery store. And here in Georgia, I think that morning our governor had said, if you're going to go to public places, wear a mask. And somehow I missed that whole announcement. And I ended up in a Publix grocery store. And I think I was like one of three that didn't have masks. Like everybody else had masks on. And I don't know, it did a number on me. Like my heart started racing. I had to like literally get out of the store. I grabbed a couple of things. I went to go sit in my car, just to kind of settle myself down. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I feel like I'm in the middle of some kind of movie. Like, this is just doesn't even feel real. It's just so odd. And so that's a very unnerving thing. And I think the other thing that's a little challenging, and I don't know how you feel about this, Ryan, but I think it's interesting that there seems to be two distinct different opinions. There's the people that say we got to stay in, you know, leaders of our country are letting us out too quickly. And then there's the other people that are like, we need to get out and work. Like, we should be able to be given the freedom to do, to take care of ourselves and to be cautious, but we need to get out and work. So it's very interesting to listen to these sides talk and or argue or fight. And man, I'm kind of tired of that. I don't mind people having a different opinion than mine. I don't mind that at all. I just want people to just kind of speak to each other with like respect and honor each other and realize that we're all different and we're not all going to feel the same, and just kind of respect each other just because we're humans and we live in this world together. So, I'm ready for that whole argument to be over. I don't know. I find it very depressing, that whole thing that's going on.
Well, I'll just put my 2 cents in real quick. I'll just give one statistic out there for everyone where I found it interesting. I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast yesterday, and they were talking about how the average age of death from the coronavirus is older than the average life expectancy in this country. So it's just an interesting thing to think about. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, anyone can die. Anyone can die from this. I mean, it doesn't matter what age. There've been people from all ages that are dropping like flies. But yeah, there are certain times where I just think, when I'm just inside and I'm just like, man. I mean, and there some people, they're not going to get this. They're not going to understand this. But then there's other people who, if you were to let them out, they'd be totally cool with like social distancing and stuff like that. But I just think because like my grandpa said, there are a lot of stupid people in this world. So you got to account for those when you're accounting for any major decisions. So, I mean, yeah, if everyone was like, a certain person, then I guess we'd be all right. But, you have to account for those outliers when you're thinking about this. So yeah, I don't know. I think so a week from this coming Monday, when we're recording this, is going to be, I think, when Minnesota's like not fully lifted, but we had some liftings done earlier this week. But like we took our dog to get her hair cut, and then that was the only thing that's really open. But like, I don't think gyms are going to be open yet for a while. But I got a decent setup. But yeah, But what are things in Georgia? Or have they already opened up everything again? Or
Yeah, so we're kind of in that phase one. Gyms are open, grocery stores have always been opened, but they're starting to open up smaller stores. It's kind of I don't know, Georgia's been a little bit of a joke on the news lately, but
I wasn't going to say anything.
it's like tattoo parlors and bowling alleys. You're like, what?
Those are important things, okay? People
I
need to go
know.
and get their bowling done and need to get their
and,
tattoos.
and salons are opened. I think what's really happening is they're trying to allow small businesses to open so that they can make money and they can feed their families. To me, I'm like, if you are nervous about being outside and you are concerned about your health, you have the right, as a human being, to take those precautions and stay home. You have the right to do that. No one's forcing you out. Um, but if you need to feed your family and you're not able to almost not survive because your business is going under, I understand the concern and worry and heartache for people to get out there and be able to make money again. And hopefully be wise and smart on how they social distance and how they are respectful to other people who may be worried about those same things. So that's kind of where we are in Georgia. We're in phase one. So they're slowly opening things here now, but still asking people to wear masks in certain areas and obviously to keep social distancing.
Or you could just be like my older brother, who's loving this because he makes more money now on unemployment than he did from his actual job. So he's making like $800 a week on unemployment and stuff. So I don't get, and his goes until like July. So he's just gonna chill out now until then, and then find a job. But yeah, it's so interesting. But yeah, I'll admit, I enjoyed that stimulus check a little bit. I'll have some fun with that. But I'm a huge hugger, so I miss that. That's the one thing that I miss from all this. So when this all breaks down, me and my friends were gonna, have a hug circle or something, like, I don't know, some. So, but it's just, yeah, the isolation. I mean, yeah, I understand why, but yeah, there are times I think everyone has their breaking point too, where it's just, they got to go out and get some
Yeah,
fresh air.
and
So.
everybody's story is different. Everybody's experience is different. It's because we're all different. We come from different backgrounds, and we have a different understanding and different needs. We're all different. So I think if we could be more respectful of that and just understand that, then I think that would be a good place to start. So,
Absolutely, like we were talking about before our podcast started. She has a son who's in New York City, which is really really affected, and it's, you're basically in an apartment and you can't really go outside and do that
yeah,
much. But I also have another friend that has like a 60-acre farm where it's like he can go out and do whatever he wants. So like he can just go
yeah,
out and run, and it's life is basically normal for them because they didn't
yeah,
really socialize with that many people to begin with, just because they were working
yeah,
all the time. But yeah, it's just fascinating how this has turned out. But
yeah.
when we're going back to, I mean, your bodybuilding story, what advice do you have for people that are looking to get started? Because so many people, I think, especially during this pandemic where they have a lot of free time, I mean, there's so many posts on Instagram. I cannot tell you
Yeah,
thousands of them of people doing, at home workouts and showing,
yeah,
how they can at least get started. But what advice would you have for someone if they were to, say to you, hey, I really want to get in shape now because I have all this
yeah.
free time?
So that's a good question because I remember when I very first started bodybuilding, how confused I was. When I very first started, I didn't really have a trainer and I was just kind of trying to figure stuff out on my own. I remember I was in the gym and I saw this girl who looked really, really good. And so I just watched her for like a couple of days. And then I'm like, I'm going to talk to her. I'm just going to ask her some questions. And luckily, she was really cool and she was really nice. And she said, like, the one piece of advice she gave me was like, well, go to bodybuilding.com and just like look up stuff. And I was like, okay. So I started there. I started doing research online, just finding out stuff here and there, trying some stuff out in the gym, listening to, experts here or there, trying stuff out. And then I started to feel really confused because I felt like there was so much information and the information was not the same. Like one person was saying, do it this way. Another person was saying, eat this way. Another person was saying, oh, don't ever eat that way. And I was like, okay, what? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? So for me, I got a trainer and I just started really listening to that one voice. Because I didn't know anything, I just needed one person who understood me and understood my physique and had real education, real expertise. And the other thing that I really like about my trainer is that he lives everything he preaches. So his physique is in shape. He takes care of himself. He eats right. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate that he's always changing things and tweaking things. It's not just here's your one nutrition plan, here's your one workout plan, and good luck. It's like, okay, let's make these improvements, let's make these adjustments, and let's keep, watching and paying attention to the progress. Um, I still have that same trainer because I'm competing. I've been working out with him for almost 11 years now. I don't necessarily think that you have to have a trainer for 11 years, but I think at some point in your journey, if you have a good trainer, then you're going to probably get some really good information for you as an individual that you may not get if you're just trying to do it all by yourself. Listen, I'm a vocal coach. And I work with singers who are on and off Broadway. I work with labels. I work with people that are making a lot of money doing what they're doing. And they need a coach. Just because you have a really good voice and you're making money doesn't mean you don't need a coach. You need someone who's going to help you stay healthy. Like if you're doing this for a living, like this is serious business, or you want to improve, like in the world of bodybuilding and in the world of helping singers sing, that's really important. Like, this vocal instrument is what, I mean, they're athletes and they have to stay in check. And that's what I try to do in the gym. And I need a third eye to do that for me. So,
You mentioned vocals, and I am blessed with probably one of the worst voices you'll ever hear in your entire life. So there's no way that I would ever sing. I mean, I'm one of those where, I have to be incredibly liquored up to get out and do karaoke. And even then, people are just sympathizing. It's bad, which is funny because the rest of my family, I mean, they have the voices of angels basically, and they're all in like these bands, not like rock and roll bands or anything like that, but like musical bands. And they have great voices. But, I was the black sheep where, I mean, yeah, they basically, I should have been put out to pasture for vocal. Well, I was basically for my vocal career, at least when I was probably about like as soon as I was born. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle. But knowing that, I mean, you do both of those, is there anything that you take from like vocal training to bodybuilding training or vice versa?
yeah, like I tell my singers that they need to be consistent in their training. And I find that that message in the gym is really, really important too. You can't do the right thing for 3 days and then do the wrong thing for 2 days and then do the right thing for 2 days and then the wrong thing for 3 days and then expect to have progress. I think in the 11 years that I've been doing this, one of the biggest takeaways that I have learned is that progress happens when you do the right thing over a long period of time. And if you're willing to put in that work, you are gonna see results. You are. If you're willing to just day in and day out, stick to a plan and be really consistent with it, like steadfast, like just do it no matter what, that's when you're gonna see that hard work come to fruition.
Well, and one thing that I think a lot of people suffer from, especially in my generation, where, like you said, everyone wants everything now and they want it yesterday. I mean, this is definitely not a lifestyle that you can get into if you want that. But how long into your journey before you really start to see those results? Because I always love to ask that because everyone always seems to have that one moment when they first see those little changes and they're like, "Oh, I can do this now." How long into your journey was that before you had that aha moment?
I think like I started working out with my trainer, and it was like 2 or 3 years after we had been working. I was like, okay, I want to pretend like I'm getting ready for a show, but I don't want to do a show. I just want to pretend. And he's like, okay. And so we kind of went through this like mini cut, and I was totally like hooked. Like as soon as I like started to cut and I started to see all that muscle definition and I was like abs and I was like, "Oh my gosh, my back." I was like, "Okay, we're going to do this again and we're going to do it for real." Like I was just so hooked. I could not, like I could see muscle happening, totally happening, that, those first 2 years, but it was when I started to cut and you could just really see the demonstration of the muscle and all your hard work. And you could just see that start to happen in your physique. I was like, oh man, that was such a good feeling to know all of that was there in my physique. It's just that I just needed to get rid of a little bit of that fluff so I could see it. So I think I definitely saw results before then, but it was when I started cutting that I got really, really excited. Yeah, it was really exciting to me.
That's a story that we hear of all the time. And if we were to talk to you again a year from now, we'll get you on a year from now. We won't wait a whole year and a half like we did this time. But what are some goals that you would like to have achieved? What are some things that you're planning on? So if we were to talk a year from today, where'd you like to
Yeah.
be at?
So I'm not going to say for sure, but I'm pretty sure that this is probably going to be my last year of competing. And then I want to try to figure out how to live a bodybuilding life and maintain my physique. Like I know I won't have a shredded look, but I don't want to be in that fluffy place anymore. I want to be able to maintain my athletic look and maintain my muscle. And I have to figure out what my nutrition is going to look like in order to make that happen. So I know that journey is coming up and I'm hoping to kind of have the answers to that
Yeah.
then. So
Yeah, and we wish you nothing but the best of in that. Are you planning on just trying to stay the same, or you're not going to try to grow at all, or you're just basically trying to maintain then?
I kind of that's what's in my head right now. That's kind of where I'm at. I think that if if I'm done with competing, I think I just want to see if I can maintain for a period of time and see what that looks like and see what that feels like.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Let's say that you win these shows that you're preparing for. Would you continue then?
There's the possibility.
Yep.
Listen, I there's one thing that I feel I was had this thought even today when I was driving my car home from training. I I love bodybuilding. I love the sport. And I am so grateful and feel so blessed that in my early 50s I can do this. Like, we sometimes we're really hard on ourselves, and I'm a perfectionist. I'm also a very type A personality, so I ride myself pretty hard. Um, but every once in a while, I have a thought that comes to my brain, and I'm like, "Hey, look at what I'm doing. I'm in my early 50s, and look what I've done." And I thought to myself, more of us need to realize that there is a lot that we can accomplish, like as we age. Like, we don't have to like get out of our 20s and 30s and say it's over. Like, I can't, there's nothing left for me to do. I say, no, there's a lot we can do. And I want to keep accomplishing things as I move, through the older parts of my life. But I'm grateful, so grateful to be here, Ryan. And I'm having so much fun. I love this sport. Love it.
And that's amazing. And before we wrap things up, do you have anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Um, Gosh. I should always, if I'm in a situation like this where I'm talking about bodybuilding, I need to always shout out to my trainer, Daniel Stefanski. He's stood in my corner for 11 years, and he has um, always like just had a lot of faith in me. He's pushed me really hard. Um, he demands a lot, which is I really appreciate that because I like to rise to the occasion. I think he understands that. And he's a good man, and he's a knowledgeable trainer. Um, and then the other person who's stood in my corner as well as my husband. He like, I think a lot of us sometimes when we are in this sport, not everybody gets it. I've had I've had quite a few people in my life that do not understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. They think I'm crazy. And I actually lost some friends doing this sport because they really did think I was crazy. But my husband has always said, "Hey, babe, whatever you want to do, you go for it. And I'm going to be right here cheering for you." And so I'm very, very fortunate to have someone who wants to support me through all this craziness because it is a little crazy, right?
Oh, 100%. And I mean, we've heard hundreds of stories on this podcast, and yeah, just having people on your corner, I mean, that is just the best thing to have. But
Thank you so much for having me on, Ryan. It's always so nice to chat with you. You're such a great guy.
well, I appreciate that. And everyone, go and give her a follow. I'll highly recommend it. I'll leave a link to her trainer too. You can go follow his Instagram page. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.